Hello everyone, and welcome back down into the horrible lighting environment that is my basement aquaponic garden. Still got a few other things growing on down here. I've got my little houseplant shelf, and of course I've got the stubborn mint down under that purple light. But the focus of today's video is of course going to be the aquaponic garden, starring, as usual, that Aji Penec. So let's take a look at that, but first let's take a quick look at what's going on the Darwin/seedling table right now. So one consistent thing in these Wednesday videos seems to be the oregano looks pretty darn happy. But I mean, an oregano in good container being fed fish water, it's really got nothing to be unhappy about. Gus here is not looking great, so hasn't been transferred over yet. But if we look really carefully, we can still see there is some green on there. So I think it will be worth the effort to transfer it over soon. This poor, I believe this is a purple freak. Or it was a purple freak, yeah. One of the last. Not doing well at all. And then over here we have all of those houseplant cuttings back under their dome. Seem to be doing fairly well. I'd say I've lost less than 20% of them so far. Hoping to keep it up there. But we'll take a quick look at the fish that are once again enjoying some dandelion salad. And there's a basil leaf in here somewhere. Looks like they've been working over. So I think I'll be adding that to the aquaponic fish food that I'm going to work on making. I'm trying to keep things as cheap as possible, and buying good quality fish food is not cheap, especially the stuff that I like to buy. Therefore, I have from time to time tried my hand at feeding my assorted goldfish basic human foods and or easy things to grow in the garden. If you're familiar with the large garden patch we have, it's half dandelions right now. So if I can somehow dry those, mix it into whatever else I'm going to use. For example, there's going to be mashed peas in there, there's going to be some mashed carrot in there, a little bit of mashed banana. I know all of these things are pretty healthy for the fish, and you know, they will eat them. So probably going to make an interesting mash out of all of these things. I'll dehydrate it, I'll smear it, I'll break it up, and they go from pellets to sort of a thicker flake. But whatever, these fish are pretty smart and will adapt. Good healthy fish. I'm still just so impressed by how well these guys have done. I've kept fish in a lot of different situations ever since I was a young man. I used to keep bala sharks and red tails and all kinds of stuff. But, excuse me with my throat there, but with all of my previous fish keeping experiences, nothing has done so well for their growth as aquaponic gardens. I mean, one of these days I will be trying it with an edible fish, tilapia, or just like, I think it's a $15 license and some red tape and paperwork away. And since I'm setting up in the basement now, you know, logical progression, I'm going to be getting to tilapia sooner or later. And it'll be interesting to see how well they grow, because that is in theory the other side, the other benefit, if you will, from an aquaponic garden, is not only do you get your vegetables, in theory you get your proteins from the fish. I don't eat my goldfish. I did a video about it once. I've gotten some grief, lost a few subs, but I'll link that anyway in case you're new to the channel and haven't seen that particular video on how to prepare edible goldfish. Just, if you do watch it, hear me out, watch it all the way to the end, that's all I ask. So anyway, let's pan up to under the funky light, take a look what's growing on in the aquaponics here. As I said, the Penec is the star, but this branch is getting kind of heavy. We're not getting any color though. So a theory I want to throw out to the assembled crowd today: does it take heat to bring out the color in peppers, or is it just time? That is my question, because I still have a space heater and I'm not against the idea of throwing it on down here. We have an insulation blanket that I'm thinking about throwing up as a wall. Anything that can produce, improve the productivity, right? So now at the back we're getting peppers forming up here. These ones look like they're going to be a little more circular in shape. That one by my thumb looks a little bit more like the Aji Penec outside, so that's going to be interesting. I mean, this is all coming off the same plant, but I do need to come through here and clean it up. The ladybugs, they're just not reproducing in this colder environment, so the aphids are taking over again. And as I said before, I think these big monster softball sized flies are part of the problem. I think they are spreading it around. So I've got the fly tape up. We've got at least one of them. I need to put more of those tapes up, but let's look at what's going on in the rest of the garden here. Mint, unstoppable, unkillable. Time to harvest this darn mint. The Aji Fantasy that I'm putting over here to test the light conditions seems to be doing fairly well. I'm probably going to clean the roots off and put that in and hope it does as well as the Aji Penec. It's like the only really decent looking pepper I've got left down here, so I got to do something. Still nothing growing where the tomato was actually planted. Toying with the idea of getting more radish seeds because it's kind of cooler down here, so they wouldn't bolt. And then basically using the sprayer to hose this down until some of those seeds get down to the water level, and I don't know, try growing some radishes in here. Be interesting, be interesting. They might have a better chance if they like start off as seeds in there. I really don't know. This basil's trucking along. Needs a good cleaning. So many things down here need a good cleaning because of those blankety blank aphids, but the new growth seems to be a healthier color than the old stuff here. I have been trying to feed the fish a little bit more. Hopefully increase various nutrient levels in there, because there's a few things that you get out of just the leftover food. It's not just the fish waste, it's also the leftover food rotting and separating in the system. Really is too bad about the aphids, because I've got a lot of flower sets on here that are probably not going to survive. However, I've got a few tricks up my sleeve from many years of fighting this good fight. Oh, and by the way, happy Independence Day. Yes, happy July 4th down south, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day and playing safe at whatever barbecues you do end up attending. But yes, happy July 4th. As it suddenly occurs to me, do y'all even still call it Independence Day, or is it just the 4th of July down there? I'm not really allowed to have national pride anymore. I'm allowed to have pride in these peppers, though. I mean, not according to my upbringing, but according to the laws, I'm allowed to have pride in these peppers. Look at the size of this thing. Hasn't gotten that much bigger over the last week, so I'm hoping we'll see some color soon, but otherwise I am definitely going to bump up the heat. We were looking at things growing in the garden. That's not growing, is it? However, the sage still seems to be trucking along, so that is good. In the past, I have had some pretty reasonable success with sage in aquaponics. It was tricolor sage, and it was in a greenhouse aquaponic garden, so there were some obvious differences there. But all things considered, hey, this one's actually got a 3D shape to it. So distracted, ADD, you know, squirrel, ah! But anyway, so there you go. Most things in the aquaponic garden are doing well. I think above anything else, the fish are probably doing the best out of anything in the aquaponic garden. But the Aji Penec is definitely the star of the plants. Starting to put on some serious numbers. Nice to see them taking shape in the back as well, even with this aphid situation. I will get this under control. You know what I'm noticing now, though? As we look through another leaf coming down. As I look through the leaf here, starting to fill in a little bit more in the center. Unfortunately, it still looks terrible, but there is a little bit more depth to that green. So I guess I am getting one of the needed nutrients right. And the battle carries on. I definitely got to deal with those aphids. As I was saying, though, I do have a few tricks up my sleeve for that. One thing that I have used in the past is rubbing alcohol soaked cotton balls, and I'm going to put them in a couple of trays under here, turn off the fan, and the fumes from that kind of go up into the plant, and they seem to somehow dehydrate the aphids without doing too much damage to the plant. So I should be able to knock a few off that way. This sucker is good and sturdy, and while it doesn't quite reach over the fish tank, I can give it a good shaking and knock a lot of the aphids off of it that way. And then of course there's just good old-fashioned finger squishing. I don't care much for the doubled over tape technique. I've ripped off far too many leaves that way. And I doubt it's because I have super strong tape, because I buy dollar store stuff whenever I can, and there's always tape at the dollar store. You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Anywho, I think that's about where we're going to call it a wrap today. I definitely have to do something down here about the camera lighting situation. The plants seem to be okay with it, but the camera doesn't care for it much. I am seriously thinking about hanging up an insulated blanket, like I said, to try and keep some of the heat into this aquaponic portion. I am seriously thinking about putting in a space heater, but it would only be on like its minimum 500 watt setting, because space heaters, extension cords, there's a lot of complicated do's and don'ts that go along with that, and I really don't want to start anything problematic in my dungeon, you know? So, yes, safety first. If you're going to be sticking around for tomorrow and or, you know, continuing on with the adventure, do make sure you've subscribed. And hitting the like button always helps with the algorithm, helps me get in front of more people out there on YouTube. If you're coming back tomorrow for the Permaculture Thursday stuff, I do plan on planting some beans and peas into that big old mound we built last week, just to kind of shore it up and let those roots kind of check erosion a little bit. Maybe even get some beans and peas, but I doubt it. And we picked half a liter of Saskatoon berries today. As we were doing that, I'm talking to Shocks about how I'd like to try them as how I'd like to try them in a mead, and she was like totally cool with that. So I'm going to be starting that up tomorrow too, because that also strikes me as the permaculture type activity. So do check back if you're interested in that. Take care, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow.